Hey everyone, welcome back to my MS Tips blog. I'm not doing so great, hence the reason my voice is a little bit lower than normal. I'm kinda sick right now, so that's what I'm gonna talk about today, being sick when you have MS. Now, granted, it's not very much the same for any two people with MS, but there are similarities, and go through one of two different things basically. First comes to people like myself, which I know more about, is whose immune system has been permanently elevated and pretty much runs in overdrive at all times after we've been diagnosed with MS or after our first flare up or something. Our immune system just runs in overdrive. For me, basically, my white blood cell count is at the we're all gonna die level. That's what it is. It basically thinks I'm going walking through the bubonic plague at all times. So my white blood cell count stays super elevated. I don't like the heat at all, so I'm always trying to find someplace colder. My body temperature does actually run a little bit lower than normal, so even when I'm sick, I never get very hot. Like I've had a fever, I've even had COVID, and my body temperature never hit 100. Pretty sure if it hits 100, I'm gonna die. And then there's those of us whose immune system is a little bit weakened since we had MS and since our first flare up and since other things that's happened with it. So we tend to get sicker easier and we tend to stay sicker longer. Being sick tends to hit us a lot harder than people like myself who rarely ever get sick. But the one thing we do have in common with being getting sick and being sick is generally when we get sick it's not very normal. Generally people around us aren't sick either. Like for instance, I got sick because I didn't get sleep for one night and I woke up the next morning with a swollen throat. Couldn't really speak for much and it just got worse from there. I haven't coughed or sneezed or very much of anything. Today, I started sneezing and coughing a little bit and I'm pretty much over it now. Like the swelling has went down, I'm getting a lot better. But as you may have, but that's not how regular colds are supposed to work. You generally have the sneezing and the coughing and stuff at first. Generally, for me, it generally happens towards the end. For the most part, I get really tired and can't stay awake very much when I get sick, which happens to a lot of us with MS because our body is so well worn down, and your immune system actually does take up a lot of energy. When the immune system gets elevated, when your body thinks it's fighting off a cold, you do get tired really easily. I I don't get tired very easily or very often because my immune system is always in that fight mode. So I've gotten used to the draining and being tired. Though I do eat more than you would expect. I eat a lot more than you would expect, especially for someone not gaining weight all the time. But that's for a different time. The main purpose of this video is basically some few tips on dealing with MS and dealing with being sick when you have MS. First of all, it's very important to drink a lot of water when you get sick. And then it's even more important to rest. A little bit more important than I would say the average person than it is for us, or it's more important for us to rest than it is for the average person because for some reason, when we don't rest, our body seems to go even more haywire. It seems as though a lot of times, especially when it comes to dealing with people with MS, our body tends to do a lot more of what it should be and work a little bit better when we're asleep. Granted, sometimes it doesn't work better when we're asleep, but most of the time it does work better when we're asleep. So we tend to heal better when we sleep a lot more, and we tend to get over colds and stuff when we sleep a lot more than you would for an average person. Now, also, I wouldn't recommend taking a ton of vitamin C or zinc. Yeah, take some, but not a whole ton. Zinc seems to have a bad reaction to MS. It seems to make us be more prone to flare-ups afterwards. So I don't take zinc when I get a cold. I do take more vitamin C, but I don't actually take vitamin C on the regular because it seems as though when I take it on the regular, I actually get more tired and I'm prone to feeling like, well, it's not pain, but more jitters and more sharp pains throughout my body at random intervals where I take vitamin C on the regular. So I don't do that. I do like try to make sure I eat healthy, like oranges and stuff like that once in a while, to make sure I don't have a lack of vitamin C in my system. So I don't end up having to take the vitamins. Now, with MS being such a weird disease and each person being so different when they get sick, especially when they have MS, I recommend you pay close attention to your body. Not just when you're sick, but all the time. Pay close attention to how you feel after you eat anything at all, so that you know what you can change in your diet and what not to eat and what to eat more of. Pay attention to what gives you more energy and what helps you feel better while when you eat it, when you don't eat it. Things like that help, because then you know exactly what you should be focused on eating. When you do get sick and you don't feel great, then you focus on eating all the stuff that you normally would eat to make you get energy and make you feel better, so you can help yourself recover a little bit faster. Which comes to the next point of paying attention to your body when you're sick, because one of the things is when you have MS, you are prone to flare ups, and sometimes they come on and they're very obvious, and sometimes they're not. But especially when you're sick, it can come on without you noticing easily. So paying attention to every little thing in your body when you're sick is vitally important. Pay attention to how every part of you feels, how your skin feels, how your breathing is, how heavy things even feel, so that you know if you're not just having a cold or if this cold is causing a flare. Because catching that early can be a great thing, because then you can adjust your diet and you can talk to your doctor and make sure that you don't end up in a lot worse condition than you would have been, because sometimes a simple cold can turn into you ending up in a wheelchair when you have MS. So it's very important to pay attention to all the little signs that your body's telling you, and then make sure you don't end up making things worse, especially going out to exercise or doing any kind of arduous anything when you're sick can actually cause a flare up, especially if you have MS. It is also vitally important to understand and remember that MS is an autoimmune disease, which means it's dealing with your immune system. Your immune system is already not functioning the way it's supposed to function in a normal person. So being sick on top of that actually adds a lot of strain to the immune system, and it can actually do a lot of backwards things. Like, for instance, because my immune system is always so elevated, when I get sick, it can be quite dangerous, because then my immune system can actually elevate to the point where it starts causing damage to my body. When I get sick, I get nosebleeds very easily. My gums start bleeding sometimes. I've actually had the point where, like, one of my eyes, actually, I think this one, there's a mark in it that actually started bleeding, all because I just had a common cold. But the fact is, all these things can can all come together and start acidating in your body, and you can have a lot more damage than just a common cold. So it's very important to pay attention to that, and remember that a common cold can be a very big thing when you have MS. So pay attention to it and pay attention to what's going on and how you feel, and don't let it get out of control. Make sure you get lots of rest and drink lots of water. Make sure you go to the doctor if you feel something starts going off, or if things start feeling heavy, anything like that. You should probably go to the doctor first, because these are all signs of flare ups going to happen, which means you can lose temporary use of your hands or legs or any other part of your body. And if you're not careful, this temporary loss can become permanent. For instance, I am always hungry. I've been hungry for about 7 years straight. I do not feel full anymore, because one time when I was sick, I started to feel hungry. I didn't pay much attention to it and I didn't do much about it. But after a while, I ended up with a flare up. I went to the doctor afterwards, but it was too late at that point. The damage had been done. And now I can feel full, but I will always feel hungry. So for the past like 7 years, I've just been perpetually hungry, which is why I schedule everything. But that's for a different time also. So just be careful when you get sick, because it can lead to other things. And if you're not careful about it, it can become something permanent, which is a really bad thing. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll see you guys in the next video.